Thank you. Our speaker, Al Emerick, believes that each of us makes a deeper impact and creates far greater value than we realize. In fact, it is his mission to reshape how the world defines, shares, and communicates value. The GPS that led this former broadcaster, advertising, and marketing executive here today includes being a successful for-profit and social entrepreneur, appearing in over 20,000 TV and radio commercials, and speaking, in case you think you might have recognized him, here in Jacksonville, and speaking and performing before more than 1 million people. At last count, he has played, voiced, and created more than 100 different characters throughout his career. Today, Al supercharges organizations and leaders teaching his proprietary value mapping system while tapping into his endless abundance of positivity and energy with a generous smile and hug that he freely shares with anyone, including you here today. He is going to give us an abbreviated version of the wonderful work he does, but I thought it would be worthwhile for us to hear and actually do an activity. Before I begin, did everyone get a sheet, a handout, and a pen? Does anybody need one? Raise your hand. So two in the front. Okay, Crystal or someone's going to help get those. Al, please come up.
Good morning. What a joyous way to spend a Sunday. As much work and talking and as many times as my lips have flapped and noises come out, I can tell you that for all the times I've been on a stage, I've never, ever done a sermon. Except when I was 13 at my bar mitzvah, and I did my Haftorah, and I don't even know that I could actually spell Haftorah, let alone understood. It was always confusing to me how I was supposed to be a man at 13 when I was still figuring out how to spell boy. So I was raised a Jew. I am spiritually connected to Judaism. But the irony of where I am in my life today, that I should run into Peter at a time when everything that I'm about to share with you stems from the very same 7 principles you live by each day, is not lost on me. The divinity of whatever source it is that brought us here. Said I wasn't going to cry. So Peter, if nothing else today, thank you. Value. It's a big word, isn't it? We can go to the next slide. I debated whether or not to even have a presentation, but I wanted today to mostly be about thinking, because I'm going to introduce a concept and idea. And so please don't feel obligated to do the paperwork, if you will, although I think it will be an exercise worth embarking upon. If you're more comfortable on a phone, you could use your phone, because it's not complicated. But what is complicated is the idea and the concept of value. So when I say that word to you, what is value? The 45, 50 or so of you in this room and the 24 or so of you remotely plus probably all have a different idea. You can go to the next slide, please. In fact, the concept of value is an enigma. Let me ask you something. If I said, how would you define your value? Would you have an immediate answer? No, it's like this perpetual evolving equation that isn't as easily solved by E = mc squared. And yet, everything I was taught as a child, most of what I experienced in my life was a living embodiment of what I now see as value. My Little League coaches, who were my fathers after my father had passed away. My endless love from my mother, the friendships, the jobs where I failed, the jobs where I succeeded, my beautiful relationship with my children, with my wonderful, amazing partner, being here today. That is supposed to define what is valuable, isn't it? But how often do we actually understand what that really means? Next slide, please. And so as I thought about this really confusing concept, I realized if I ask you, how do you define value? It's like being stuck in traffic on the Buckman Bridge or in rush hour at the worst time of day. All these thoughts come into your mind. Self-doubt. Am I valuable? How do I define my own valuable? Is what I've done valuable? Here I am at the beginning of my life. Here I am at the end of my life. Here I am in the middle of my life. What is the value around me? Next slide, please. Because the truth is, if you think about the concept of value, it's actually like a constant. It's always around us. Nobody woke up today, I don't think, raise your hand if I'm wrong. Did anybody wake up today to say, you know what? I'm on a value diet. I'm not going to give any value. I'm not going to receive any value. I don't want any value. I'm not going to church to get value. No, we're in a constant, like, all-you-can-eat buffet of value. Like, give me some of that. Let me have some of that. Oh, God, I want more of that. And so every single part of our existence is some exchange, whether it's our family, our friends, our health, the stories we tell, the experiences we have. But how often do we actually have the time to stop, pause, rest, thank you for that, and say, how do I acknowledge this moment to be valuable to me, both from the giver and the receiver? Well, the truth is, life happens. And whether you're 95, 59, 5'9", 5, or 9, it's always going too fast. So when do we think about value? Well, sometimes when we come to church. Definitely when someone passes, when someone's born, when something big happens. But the big moments aren't the pillars. It's the little moments, the periods at the ends of the sentences, the question marks, the apostrophes, the commas. That is the beauty that glues our lives together. And so in acknowledging this, next slide please, I realized there is a challenge that all of us face. These are our 7 principles of this beautiful church. And each one of these is reliant upon your ability to connect. How do I find the value of dignity to me? What is my contribution to dignity? And when we look at these, they're more than just a belief and a values system, because values are only as good as our ability to understand how they contribute to our life and how we contribute to them. Now, we can feel that, and we can say it, and you can look at me and go, hey, Al, that sounds real pretty. It's a lot of word soup. But what does it mean? What's the steak bite that means something, that gives you substance? And that's what I want to do today. Next slide, please. I want to show you something that allows us to go from the surface layer of our lives, because we actually have an exchange of value, but unfortunately it's being dictated by our lives around us. And nowhere is that more present than when you meet somebody for the first time. Hi, what do you do? What do you do? You know what I've learned after my short 57 years? Nobody cares what you do. Because if I tell you I'm a lawyer, some of you are going, ooh, no offense to lawyers. Some of you are going, ah. If I say I'm a fireman, right now you're like, oh my God. Because it's situational. What if I'm a lawyer that saves victims and survivors of domestic and sexual abuse? Oh. But what if I'm a lawyer that does chase ambulances? But with every dollar I make, I give back to my community and world. We don't know. So the world right now, I'm proposing, is dictating how we should define value. By dollars, by power, by control, by influence. But how do we seize that back? Well, we seize that back by going from the layer of our garden to the guts. Today, you just shared way below the surface. You shared the loss. You shared a musical experience. You shared ideas. By being here today, we're in the subsoil of what I call the value garden. But today, you're going to walk out of here, and we're going to go right back to the top. So my gift that I wish to share with you today, that I wish to share with the world, that is the exclamation point on this final chapter of my world for the next how many ever years I'm alive, is to show you a way to get to the subsoil very quickly, very easily. Next slide, please. And that is going to give you 3 seeds so that your garden of value will grow no matter what. Whether you're seeking greater value to understand it of yourself, whether it's of your music, because what I've realized is that even when we intentionally pause for a moment to go, this I believe, this I feel, this matters to me, this is valuable, we can still learn more. How many of you know somebody who has arrived at the end of a career and they said, I'm not sure what this was worth or what this mattered? How many of you have ever said, I hold my child in my arms and hands and I can see the value that they give to me? But how many times have you said, what was the value I gave to them? Because value is not a one-way street. It's a two-way street, and it's in a constant ebb and flow. And so I will simply walk you through a very simple process that can be applied, and you can plant these seeds anywhere in your life. And if I could, I'd give it to the world for free. Giving it to businesses is part of the way I survive and thrive. Speaking to organizations. But the human condition and the human exchange of value, to me, is the quintessentially most important thing. And the beauty is, it's what you all stand for in this church. So it's truly a joy to share this with you. Next slide, please. For us, and for me, to absolutely stand here with confidence and say, I can show you a path to better understanding and defining value, one thing has to happen: clarity. Because remember those 8 lanes of traffic? That repeats itself in a cycle throughout our entire life. We wake up, we have a day, 18 lanes of traffic. We come to church, there's all these things to do. We come to wherever we go to, 18 lanes of traffic. Some of you, hopefully few of you, are already thinking, what's next? But this presence requires clarity. And so what I'm about to show you is a method that I've proved over and over and over again thousands of times, but it gets you to 1 lane of traffic very quickly. Part of it is neurologically, which I'm not getting into the science of this, but the brain is actually focusing and shifting gears to get you to 1 lane. And then the rest of the process is how you drive down the road. But guess what? If you believe and achieve and try over and over again and repeat this in your life, what I'm about to show you, I promise you, you will find that lane, you will be able to drive yourself, and you'll adjust the speed based on what you're looking at. Enough of the metaphors. Let me get to the point. Next slide, please. The principle of everything here is that impact is actually the currency of value. This is critical. You can't assess is something valuable unless you understand the impact. Here's an example. What's your name, sir? Rob. Rob, if I gave you $1, what's the impact of that dollar to you right now? So Rob held up his hand right here. But let me ask you this, Rob. If I just gave you $1 and I said, hey, here's $1, enjoy your day, how would you feel?
Say thank you.
Would you be appreciative? Yes. So there is value because you were given appreciation, but you couldn't buy anything with it. Well, maybe. Nah. I was speaking, by the way, the other day to a group of 30-somethings, and I said bazooka bubblegum. I think you can probably figure out that that was pretty silly. One person said, isn't that a gun? Anyway, So impact is the currency of value, but the sum of what you do plus the impact what you do. Meaning, there is giving of the dollar, that is monetary exchange. There is me standing on the stage, I am speaking, this is what I am doing. But if you don't walk away from here today acknowledging what was the impact of the day, the sermon, Al, Peter, all of the things, then you're leaving the ability to truly evaluate the value of today like a cup half full. And so the way you fill that cup, next slide please, is to realize that there are two types of impact. There is a cognitive functional impact. I got more of. I had $1, I was able to buy something. I went to church, I connected with people. I saw my friends. But it is the emotional feelings impact and the acknowledgement of that, of what you felt and actually thinking about it or documenting it, that has to be part of the equation. Because in our lives, we put feelings aside. Even a feeler like me will do that. And I feel everything. I do. I walked into this room and I felt you. It's just the way I'm wired. Other people are on the other side of it. And feelings and tapping into them is difficult. But the bottom line is, if you want to live a valuable life into its fullest, they deserve on equal planes. Your head and your heart are one. And that is the key message. If you learn nothing else today, that is to acknowledge what you feel and what you think. And that is why successful leaders that lead successful companies give their employees the ability to feel and to honor that emotion. It's why churches like this, which don't demand, but give you freedom to feel and believe, are blessedly successful. But why does the rest of the world not understand that? Next slide, please. So what I'm going to show you now is the tool to get to this. And now I'm going to work from right to left. And this is the visualization that if you want to understand value, you have to understand impact more deeply. But to understand impact, you have to recognize the head and the heart. This is what I've been talking about. But how do you get to that quickly? There are 3 questions. And these are the 3 seeds that I'm going to demonstrate to you in very short order, that you're going to experience. And I'm going to give you a quick path, and then we'll wrap it up so that you can go create more value today. Next slide, please. I'm going to ask you to just listen and not read, if you would right now, just momentarily. The most important thing to remember from the process is word, why, impact. I'm going to say it 5 times. Word, why, impact. Word, why, impact. Last 2 times, say it with me. Word, why, impact. Last time, I'm actually going to use a British voice just to mix things up. Word, why, impact. I think that's just me being silly. Why is it word, why, impact? Let me share with you what is one word that most clearly defines the value of blank. That is the one-word question. I'm going to show you an example here in a moment, but think about it. What's one word that most clearly defines the value of what you're receiving today? What's one word that most clearly defined what you're trying to get by being here today? What's one word that I had to put into my head and heart that most clearly defined what I want to share with you today? When you say, what's that one word, your brain has to make a selection. There's a whole lot of neurological stuff going on, it doesn't matter. But you're getting out of the traffic. Because when I say, what's one word that most clearly defines my value, it's given me an opportunity to find a little bit of clarity. It's not that there's only one word. It's just a starting point. You can add more words if you'd like. But the next question is so critical is, why did I choose that word? Well, now you're inviting critical thinking, and also you're opening up the Pandora's box of your own self-doubt and beliefs. Because you know what I have found over and over and over? is that when we give people the opportunity to say what one word most clearly defines your value or value in your life, they're afraid to say a word because they think they're not good enough for that word, or maybe that word's the wrong word, or maybe people won't agree with that word. We are enough. But the words are the path to begin to build your case. And so the last question is, if I chose this word and I thought through why I picked that particular word, then what is the impact? How does that impact me? But how does it impact me here and in my heart? So let me give you an example. And I actually flipped this. I was originally going to ask you the question that you're going to do in a moment. What one word most clearly defines the value of another person to you? But that's actually easier. So I gave you the harder version, which was to say, what one word most clearly defines your value to your partner, loved one, or family? Why did you choose that word? And what's the impact? So I'm going to show you an example, and then we're going to spend a whole 3 minutes max for you to go ahead and solve your very first value equation. And what you're going to realize is the less time you spend doing it, the easier it is. Because what do? We overthink. We are an overthinking people. Alligators, sparrows, squirrels, God bless them. They just get stuff done. So let me show you my example. And she has not seen this. And this is Ashley, my wonderful, amazing life partner, friend, girlfriend, whatever we call each other. So we can go to the next slide, and I'll read it to you. Sorry, 2 slides, 1 more slide. There we go. Oh, did we miss one? I think we're looking for the one with all the writing on it. Sorry about that. All good. Thank you for those of you that are in Fernandina and joining us via Zoom. Again, you have these worksheets, so you'll be able to go there. There we go. So what I thought about was, what's one word that I believe most clearly defines my value to Ashley, my amazing partner? And the word I chose was presence. I could choose a lot of words. This is just what, in this moment in our lives, where we are today, was presence. Now, if I just said to Ashley presence, her question would be, well, what do you mean by that? Because that could mean a lot of things. Gifts, presents, we just had Christmas. What are you talking about? Or Hanukkah. I do both, by the way, and I score. So the first part, and this worksheet is designed with these questions so you can follow along, okay? But first it's asking, who do I want to define it? It was Ashley. Next is the presence. Well, why did I choose the word presence? Well, the reason I chose is that because at this point, basically in our lives, showing up and being there for her, being an active participant in the things that are most important to her is really important. But I'm also extremely busy. I'm launching a different segment of my business. I've got my son, my family. I've got opportunities like this. I'm trying to reshape the way the world defines value. There's a lot of, what's that joke? I got a million problems and you ain't one? Okay. I got a million things going on, but if Ashley does too, and if I don't show up and I'm not actively present, then she's going to feel less than. She's going to feel not as important. And so by me being present, what is the impact? Well, there's 2 impacts. Number 1, we're able to communicate more effectively, I believe. Number 2, we're able to actually understand each other better, to problem solve more efficiently. We are able to reduce conflict when that shows up because I'm actually there with her. But also, what do we feel? She feels heard. She feels loved. She feels cared for. Now, this is my perception, but what power is there when I bring this to her and give this to her and say, is this true? Is this what you see? Please tell me and share with me what you see. What word defines the value that I bring to you? Now we're way below the surface and we're having a much deeper conversation by simply asking, what's a word? Why did you choose that word? And what's the impact? Now, I'm not going to tell you that thinking through what you're about to do in the next couple of minutes is simple. I'm going to warn you. You're going to judge yourself. You're going to think you're right or wrong. You're going to want to get it correct. And I'm just here to tell you, there are no rules. The beauty of this is the freedom to express your thoughts and ideas. I'm just giving you a GPS to use it. It's why CEOs that I work with struggle at first because they overthink what they're trying to communicate because the lanes of traffic are so big. But think about the beauty of when you come to somebody else and say, hey, employee X, or hey, family member Y, or congregant Z. Just share with me a word that clarifies the value you receive by being here today. Now I've got an exchange, I've got something I can hold on to, and we can have a conversation about something that really matters. So break out those sheets of paper, and we're going to run a quick exercise in just a couple of moments. This is the first of a starting point. There's no pass, there's no fail, there's no right, there's no wrong, and I know we need to move quickly to honor and respect the time. I'd like you to first think of the person in your life that you would most like to take a quick exploration of value with. It could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a spouse, but somebody that really matters to you. Can we go back to the next slide, please? It should be the instruction slide of word Y impact. Nope, we'll come back a little bit. Yeah, it was the one with the word. There we go. Okay. What one word most clearly defines my value to this partner, friend, or family member? Let's just start there. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about whoever that person is, and then another 30 seconds to think of that word and write that word down. And by the way, trust yourself. Don't change it. Whatever you put down first, write it down. All right? I'm going to give you a minute total. Go. Good, okay. The next thing is, whatever that word is that you wrote down for this person that you care for and you're thinking about, why did you choose that word? I'm going to give you another 60 seconds. Provide as much detail as you can in whatever you need to do, but why did you choose that word? Just like I wrote down why I chose presence. And then whenever you're ready, the last thing is, whatever that word is and why it's so important, what is the impact that you have on that person? Try to remember the head, try to remember the heart. Meaning, that person feels, that's a feeling. So if you say the word feel, it's an emotional side. My presence with Ashley allows us to communicate better. That's a functional outcome. But she feels heard as a result. My greatest example of this, I'll go back to you and to the teaching, is students learn and they're able to do these things and their brains evolve. But the most powerful tool of a teacher is the confidence that the student feels, the confidence of their ability to connect with other people. And so that's always a good reference point I like to think of as a teacher. We learn, we master, but we feel something as a result of that. Just another moment, and this is an ongoing process. as you all are wrapping up, is there anybody that's completed that would like to just very quickly share their value equation? Don't everybody just jump up at once and volunteer. It's totally okay. You won't be snake bit. Safe place. Anybody?
Can you give us your value statement?
I'm sorry?
Can you give us your value statement
For what?
so that I know how to write this?
Actually, I'll give you a value statement right now. One word that most clearly defines the value that you have created for me today. Lift is my word. Do you know why you all have given me the word lift? You've given me lift because this is a place of safety, of harmony, of joy, and a place for me to share the most important thing in my life, which is how do we lift human value? And if I've lifted one of you or two of you, then the impact of that is that A, I have continued my mission in a place and space where I know people heard the voice, but most importantly, I can walk away knowing that I hopefully touched somebody and you feel more connected to yourself, you feel more connected to another person. Okay, so what's the value statement? Your value to me is lift because you helped create a higher execution of my purpose, which made me feel very wanted, very needed, and also very happy and honored and joyful. Does that make sense? Now, I speak word soup all the time. It doesn't matter what words you use. The important thing, and I'll close with this, and we can go to that last slide, which is kind of like the tips, if you will. The most important thing I'm going to leave you with is the following. This is not about doing the work. It's about thinking through the work. If you lead, great. If you follow, great. If you're 99 or you're 9 or 5 or 9, as I said earlier, this is a process that is human. It can be applied to business. It can be applied to personal growth. But it is about the discovery. It's sort of like your trip, your music. You became the musicians you are today not because you can play the way you play, but because of the journey that got you here, that each time taught you a new cue, a new sound, a new voice, a new way to connect. And all I'm offering you is that if you say, what's the word that defines the moment? Why? What's the impact? And you repeat word, why, impact. I give you my heart and soul, that truth, because I've seen it over and over thousands of times, that you will gain new insight. You don't have to do it long. You don't have to do it fast. You just need to ask, word, why, impact. The second piece is, who do I want to share this with? Who do I want to exchange this with? And who do I want to know this from? Because you can ask others, hey, Peter, what's a word that defined what you received from me today? Tell me why, and what was the impact to you? Now I know how Peter has thought through. And so this is all available to you. It's going to be sent to you, or it has already been sent to you. And I've given you 2 tips. One is to find those people. And then the last thing is to exchange, next slide, please, to write a diary. Start documenting what are the words each day. For those of you that are, actually, we'll go to the last slide, that's fine. Write those words down. Keep a journal. If you already journal and write, include that. But my hope today, and I know for those of you are not seeing it because of where the screen is, and this is totally on me because I didn't change the picture, but there's when you get the slide, you're going to see there's a boy floating with balloons. Ah, thank you, thank you. That right there is what I seek to deliver each and every day in my life. It's what I hope to receive. And so, quick shout out, words that come to your mind. Joy, happiness. Joy, good. Okay. Clarity. Passion. Floating. Say that. Exactly. The practical thinker, I love it. Somebody once said, no joke, that grass needs to be mowed. And so I leave you with the boy and the balloons. And walk away from here today. Hopefully, I've delivered value to you. Hopefully, you've learned a process. But most importantly, have the conversation with the people that most matter to you. And start with word. Blessings and thank you so much.